A trusted spacecraft had just reported something impossible. In the black methane seas of Saturn's moon Titan, NASA's Cassini probe detected what looked like a brand new island, more than 40 square miles wide, rising out of liquid that should have been perfectly stable. Weeks later, the island was gone, completely erased, and before scientists could explain what they had found, they were forced into a far more dangerous possibility. Cassini itself might have been lying. The problem was not that something strange had appeared on Titan. The problem was that one of humanity's most trusted planetary exploration systems had just produced a reading so contradictory that either Titan's ocean physics were wrong or the spacecraft's own instruments could no longer be trusted. And the image that triggered the crisis looked deceptively simple. A grainy radar scan. A bright white mass floating inside a perfectly dark alien sea. Then, nothing. Exactly the same location. Completely empty. That single disappearing shape would force scientists to rethink how oceans behave on worlds that should have been chemically dead forever. Because the island never moved. Only the meaning of the image changed. Cassini had already been operating around Saturn for nearly a decade when the anomaly appeared. By that point, Titan had become one of the mission's most valuable discoveries. Unlike every other moon in the solar system, Titan had weather. Rain. Rivers. Lakes. Entire seas. But not made of water. Titan was so cold that water existed as rock. Instead, methane and ethane flowed like liquid across its surface, collecting into enormous hydrocarbon oceans, stretching hundreds of miles wide. One of those oceans was called Ligeia Mare. And according to everything scientists understood at the time, Ligeia Mare was supposed to be stable. Quiet. Predictable. Almost motionless. Cassini's radar instrument had been mapping Titan's surface repeatedly for years, bouncing radio waves through the moon's thick orange atmosphere and reconstructing terrain hidden beneath dense hydrocarbon haze. The process had become routine. Every radar pass followed the same logic. Bright signals meant rough, solid surfaces. Dark signals meant smooth liquid. The system worked. Until July 2014. Because suddenly, inside Ligeia Mare, a bright structure appeared where no solid object had ever existed before. Large, reflective, and impossible to ignore. At first glance, it looked like land. An island had appeared in the middle of Titan's sea. And that immediately created a problem. Because Titan does not have tectonic activity strong enough to create sudden landmass formation, no volcano should have produced it. No geological process could explain it. And Cassini had seen nothing there during earlier passes. Something had entered the ocean. Or something inside the ocean had breached the surface. But that was not the part that made the situation dangerous. The real danger came from what the radar signal itself implied. Cassini's synthetic aperture radar system was extraordinarily reliable. It had mapped dunes on Titan, ice fractures on Enceladus, surface structures on Saturn's rings. If this reading was false, then confidence in years of collected planetary data suddenly weakened. A hardware fault this deep inside mission systems could compromise everything. So scientists started testing the safe explanation first. Maybe it was signal noise, random interference, instrument corruption, data reconstruction error. Except the image refused to cooperate. The reflection was too clean, too localized, too structured. The bright patch covered nearly 100 square kilometers, large enough to be unmistakable. The radar profile looked real, not accidental. And that changed the meaning of the first image. Now the question was no longer what caused the island. It was whether Titan itself was doing something completely unexpected. Because if the spacecraft was correct, then an entire alien ocean had just behaved in a way planetary science said it could not. Weeks passed. Cassini prepared for another flyby. Scientists had a temporary explanation. Maybe floating debris. Large hydrocarbon ice chunks breaking free from Titan's shoreline. Titan's extreme temperatures might allow methane ice to temporarily float before dissolving. The theory made sense. The radar system worked. The anomaly existed. The ocean had produced debris. For a moment, the situation stabilized. Then the second scan arrived. And everything changed again. The exact same location appeared completely black, smooth, flat, empty. No island. No floating debris. No reflective structure. Nothing remained. The bright white mass had vanished without leaving any visible disturbance. Now, scientists faced a much worse problem. The original observation had become harder to trust. Because solid objects do not simply disappear from an ocean in a matter of weeks. Not objects that size. And now, the radar data looked contradictory. The same instrument had reported two completely incompatible realities. One pass showed land. The next showed empty liquid. At this point, the mission team had reached the most dangerous possibility. Cassini might be malfunctioning. And if that was true, they had a problem far larger than Titan. Cassini was nearing the final phase of its mission around Saturn. Every observation mattered. Fuel reserves were shrinking. Orbital planning had become tighter. There was no backup probe. No replacement mission waiting nearby. If radar systems were degrading, scientists needed to know immediately. Because suddenly, years of measurements across Saturn's system might need re-evaluation. And that is where the original image stopped being about Titan. It became a question about trust. Trust in the spacecraft. Trust in the instrument. Trust in every measurement collected over 10 years. The disappearing island was no longer an anomaly. It was now threatening the reliability of one of NASA's most successful deep space missions. So researchers started doing something unusual. Instead of analyzing Titan, they started recreating Titan in laboratories on Earth. And the answer that emerged made the original radar image mean something entirely different. Scientists focused on Titan's chemistry.
The Moon's atmosphere is packed with nitrogen.
Its oceans are liquid methane mixed with dissolved hydrocarbons. Under Titan's extreme cold, strange interactions become possible that simply do not happen naturally on Earth. Researchers discovered something critical. Nitrogen gas can dissolve inside methane under pressure. But under certain environmental shifts, that dissolved nitrogen can suddenly separate. Violently. When enough gas escapes at once, massive fields of nitrogen bubbles can rise toward the surface.
And here was the key. Radar does not see bubbles the way human eyes see bubbles. A dense field of rising gas dramatically changes how radio waves scatter. Instead of seeing smooth liquid, the radar interprets the surface as rough, solid terrain. Suddenly, the image changed meaning. That bright white island was never land. It was never floating debris. It was never a hardware failure. Cassini had detected something far stranger. An entire field of nitrogen gas erupting upward from beneath Titan's methane sea. For the first time, scientists realized Titan's oceans were not chemically stable. They were active systems. Dynamic. Restless. Continuously exchanging gases between atmosphere and liquid reservoirs. Invisible processes were reshaping the Moon constantly. And Cassini had not discovered an island. It had accidentally caught an ocean breathing. But that final realization carried a consequence far larger than Titan itself. Because for years, scientists had treated alien oceans as relatively passive environments. Liquids sitting quietly on planetary surfaces. Static systems waiting to be observed. Titan destroyed that assumption. The surface had looked stable. The chemistry underneath was alive. And if one moon in our solar system could hide environmental instability this complex, then countless planetary surfaces across the universe may already be deceiving us the same way. The frightening part was never the disappearing island. It was what the image proved. Even when a spacecraft reports exactly what it sees, we may still completely misunderstand what reality looks like. That opening radar scan never changed. The bright white landmass still appears exactly where Cassini found it. But now we know the truth. It was never an island. It was an ocean, changing shape in real time. On a world 2 billion miles away. Sometimes the image is perfect. The interpretation is broken.